Hi there, it's Julie Davison from juliedavison.com. Today I'm going to share with you some projects and tips for using the Woodland Texture Embossing Folder from the 2015 Stampin' Up! Holiday Catalog. Stampin' Up! Just announced this item will be retiring when the holiday catalog ends, so make sure that you purchase it as soon as possible so you get one before supplies run out. The folder looks great embossed just on cardstock, so that's what I've got here on a piece of crumb cake cardstock. I just embossed the trees and you can see it looks really pretty, adding a nice texture to your card. There are different ways that you can add color, and one of those ways is just using a sponge dauber. So I'm going to use I'm using a darker brown here, the soft suede, so that it shows up a little better, but I'm just taking the sponge dauber and then rubbing it on the raised surface where it's embossed. And you can see the trees just kind of pop right off the page. So you can do this with different colors. For Halloween, I did a darker gray on top of the light gray embossed cardstock, so the trees really popped out and looked very spooky. So here's the finished card with that technique, sponging the color on the trees to make them pop a little bit more. I used the Among the Branches stamp set. That's where the leaves came from, and the circle stamp, and that comes in a bundle with the Woodland Embossing Folder. If you want to get those together, you can save 15%. I thought it would be nice though, since this sort of looks a little bit messy, to try putting ink directly on the folder to see what that would look like. And I really wanted the ink to be on the trees, so I put the ink pad directly on the part of the embossing folder where the trees were raised. So you can use the sponge dauber if you want, or I just put the ink pad directly onto the folder like this. If you're careful not to push too hard, it'll only stick to the raised part where the trees are and not get in between the trees. If you do have some ink in between the trees though, you're going to want to wipe that off before you run it through the Big Shot. So we're going to take a piece of Whisper White cardstock and set it down inside the embossing folder, and then we're going to send that through the Big Shot. So here it is. I ran it through the Big Shot, and this is the back side of it that's embossed. So actually it turns out when I inked up the trees, I got sort of a debossed, so it kind of sinks down into the paper. Plus it got a little bit of messy. So it wasn't quite the result that I was trying for, but I still did make a card out of it. So here's the card I made. Again, I used the Among the Branches stamp set, the Making Spirits Bright, and then the ornaments to hang from the branches, and I added a couple rhinestones. But again, that wasn't quite the effect I was going for, so I tried again. This time I decided to ink the other side of the cardstock. So instead of the side where the trees were raised, I inked the other side that has the logo on it. And so I wanted this to be, I knew it would be the background behind the trees, and so I decided to choose blue so that it would look like the sky. So I'm going to ink this up on the flat side, and you can use a sponge dauber, a sponge, or a brayer to apply the ink to the embossing folder. You might find that you get a more even look, or that it's easier. I'm lazy. I'll just say it. I'm lazy. So I just put the ink pad right to the embossing folder. Okay, so I'm going to take a piece of Whisper White again, and I'm going to place it inside the embossing folder and run it through the Big Shot. Okay, I've sent it through the Big Shot, but before I pick it up, I'm just going to go ahead and rub on these areas where the ink is to make sure that the ink gets transferred all the way to the cardstock. And this will work a little bit better if you're using a really juicy ink pad that has a lot of ink. It looks like mine didn't ink up very well in some of those spots, so when I open it up, it's probably going to be a little more white there. So I can go back with a sponge and add the color, but you kind of get the idea of what I was going for there. And so let me show you the finished card. I made this one a spring card, so I wanted to show you the embossing folder can be used for more than just fall and winter. So I thought it was really pretty. I added some punches and the Hello Spring greeting to show you this really easy spring card. I've also seen some really great cards that show trees in the background, so I wanted to show you really quickly how to do that card. I actually have not done it before, but we're starting with the same step of the pool party, And we're going to ink it up again on the side that has the logo, so that the flat side. And I really want that blue sky to show up, so I'm going to ink it really, really well. And then if you kind of see in the trees where it's inking up, you can grab a baby wipe and try to carefully clean that so that it doesn't show up in your finished card. Okay, and then I'm going to take the tree from the Wonderland stamp set, and I'm going to stamp that in Garden Green right on top of the embossing folder. So right over where I've inked it up in blue, I'm going to stamp the leaves in green, or I'm sorry, the trees in green. You could use any tree, like there's a really good one in the Lovely as a Tree stamp set if you've got that one, but this is from the holiday catalog and I like the way that looks. Okay, so we've got all that inked up. Then we're going to take a piece of the Whisper White cardstock and we're going to send it through the Big Shot. Look how gorgeous it looks when it comes through the Big Shot. I'm going to finish up the card. I'll cut that off probably, and I'll show you that finished card here in just a minute. But I wanted to tell you too, you're probably wondering how you can clean your embossing folder. So whenever I ink up my embossing folder, honestly, I just take it right into the bathroom and I rinse it off in the sink. The water-based ink just comes right off, and then I pat it dry. So that's the easiest way to clean your inky mess off your embossing folder. And here's the finished card. I added a Christmas greeting and also some cardinals from the Festival of Trees stamp set. So pretty. I hope that you enjoyed all these Woodland embossing folder projects, and that you'll be sure to pick up the Woodland embossing folder before it retires from the 2015 Stampin' Up! Holiday Catalog. And you'll be able to make all kinds of projects for all seasons of the year. Thanks so much for watching. Happy stamping.